Welcome back to Factorio MSX Gigabase, our marathon tech-priced SpaceX Extreme, where in comparison to the vanilla SpaceX experience, our tech costs 64 times, our production costs 400 times. 400 by way of 16 times the normal cost for the individual items, and we have to launch them 25 times the usual amount. We're getting very close though. Fusion reactor is a fairly big one. That will involve a total of 400k processing units per fusion reactor, and as you can see from here, 25 of those. That's 10 million processing units just for the fusion reactor. And then of course the FTL drive, 25 launches of that, and it's not even in this diagram because we haven't finished the research yet. It is in this diagram though. So 25 times all of that per FTL, and yeah, that's going to take a little bit of work, so we're not going to do the fusion reactor or the FTL until we've finished all of the science, and then we're going to reconfigure the factory slightly to amp up circuits a bit so that we can maintain a massive speed on building all those modules. So what's been going on? Well guys, we are running obviously well through the faster than light theory C. Let's have a look at production for say the last 10 hours. As you can see, in terms of consumption, everything is rock solid. 12k for the red and green, 6k for the blue, because that's what you need to support SpaceX science. On the build side, it's not so clear cut because it takes a while for these things to warm up. If we do it for only 1 hour, it's very close to the 6k per minute that it's actually using, but yeah, there's about 10 minutes. 1 minute. Very close. There's a bit of a buffer that gets built up with these sites. I just let them fill up their buffers, and it takes a while for your consumption to force it to catch up to that, so I'm not really worried about that. I mean, it's well, that's not sorry, that, yeah, it's pretty close to, over like 10 hours, it's pretty close to the long running average of burning, so it's pretty good. More the 1 minute, you can see really where we're up to in terms of consumption, about 160,000 plates per minute. Most of it's coming from this stack here, which is, oh, and I've completely redone this with the tight format, so that's why we're kind of watching this one, so you can see it in action, because we spend so much time just running around the factory doing this, then the next thing you never really get to see much of it in action. Here it is, and I kind of enjoy just sort of watching the whole thing with the mod just handling everything for me. It's very nice. The train mod seems to be handling things just fine. Things come in here, they drop out. I haven't interfered with any in hours and hours and hours. So that's very good. But yes, we possibly could even have more trains involved in this stack. It's mainly just supplying the blue science with that 160,000. I think this is only good for about 140,000 by itself, so it is getting a little bit of assistance from some other quarters, but that's fine. That's how it's supposed to work. So this one ideally will find its way up here. Let's see if that happens. No, it wants to wait here. Well, that doesn't matter. Somewhere else can take up the slack, but I think it will find it now. Oh, it's going up to the top one. And the ongoing flow of ore coming in. It's kind of poetry, really. We have a fairly long lineup of trains moving into position so they can fill the pre-stackers. This bit here, actually, all this ore is not being called by my train mod. The plate trains are getting called from this point over here, where they line up in the post stacker, but in these pre-stackers they are not actually being called through on this particular build, and most of the ore in fact is not being called through. It's just using standard in-game mechanics and proper what do they call these things? Signals. Proper rail signaling. And I moved this very carefully to just the right length so that I can get a train in here and one can stop here without getting in the way of trains exiting. Things like that. Trains don't try and push around the corner when that just blocks other trains getting through and causes blockages back here. They will wait here until there's a free spot, and this lot can take 6 up the front and 6 behind for a total of 12. It seems to work quite well most of the time. There was a time when I had circuitry control. It actually looks like I still have some residual. I've got these leading back, so I was controlling whether these would be open based on the number of trains up the front, but it really doesn't matter. They actually do a good enough job themselves, I guess quite surprisingly, without any of this. So I should get rid of all of this bit, because it's just a very small but still wasted bit of UPS. And as you can see, we're 60-60 with just going up to the blues science, even at the numbers that we're doing. So that's nice too. I don't know yet how much this condensing actually helps. I think it probably helps quite a bit. I've also done some minor maintenance here. Whoops. I have added in 1 or 2 miners in there, in here. I think I moved a roboport and added 1 more in here or something. But this has too many medium poles. I'm just a little bit reluctant to take them out in case I break the important linkages up here. And it probably needs the rail line moved, but if you watch when a train comes in, I mean with this lot here, it gets most of it from very close now, so it's not using a lot of UPS. In fact, how is UPS going? Well, the update is only 13.5, 13.6. So we're actually there's still quite a bit of space there before we tax our upper limit, which is fortunate, because I'm pretty sure the upper limit will be taxed quite hard as soon as we get to the next phase. And I'm going to try and do as little as possible and just see how well we are going to go. But so that's what the stack looks like when it's being condensed versus these ones that haven't been condensed. You can see it's quite a lot thinner. The ones I have yet to do, there isn't enough work going through them so that I can clear the content out very fast to actually do it. I also probably can do it to this stack as well. I mean, this has a lot of multi-purpose functions. It's obviously got normal or almost normal iron stacks leading into a green circuit build that could probably be compressed. In fact, it's got too many it has too many of these machines in it. We could probably eliminate this row altogether and cut out every second along here. That would help a little bit. And this one as well. The way I built this, obviously, I didn't really take that into account too well. This one I did. This is how it should look. This is just a ore with like 5 instead of 6 rows, because of where the roboport reaches. That's where we can do a bridging. And the idea with these is basically that the ore just travels kind of directly to those rather than like sort of an angle like that. And it gets picked up for use in a similar sort of way on the other side. It's not perfect because I think I need slightly more of these than line up exactly with these to handle the total number of rows that we've got. in particular. This one could definitely, well, I mean, all of them could do with a little bit of compression. There is also the possibility that we could have looked into, I guess, of actually having copper, green circuit, copper, green circuit, copper, green circuit, copper, green circuit along here. And in fact, my build going forward will do that. So that's probably an optimization here that we could do. There's still more optimizations. It just takes quite a while when, you know, I haven't closed off these chests probably in the way that I should, so they can get overly full very easily. What else? What else? Oh yes, something that we can work on is this one here. It's completely dead now. So that is in fact what we will do. Where am I? I am down by the science, because the science is quite fun to watch as well when it's active. There's a little bit of activity there. These things, one of them will run out of something soon. Blue science is being called. It's filling up at the moment. There's only 2 blue sciences to serve 8. This is probably an example of a build that is very difficult to make work without using something like my mod, where I have trains that go into the right rail stop, and the rail stops are multi-purpose, so you only have one from each direction. So that this whole distance isn't that large. You could make it work if you had one rail stop per type of item. That would let you make it work quite easily, but that then means that you have 7 trains pulling into here, although you could have smaller trains and then sort of, you know, get 2 or 3 trains along, so you wouldn't necessarily need it too much more fat, but you couldn't do it exactly the way I've done. Would be the point that I was trying to make, I guess. That should have got rid of one of those blues. It certainly has. It looks like the other one's gone as well, so that's good. All in all, it's holding up very nicely, thank you. And even the oil over here is holding up pretty well. Not being used that heavily because we're not needing the rocket fuel really. So there's a small drain off due to this conversion to light oil and extra plastic, but it's not really something that's being stressed in any way. We're barely making enough red circuits to even know we're making red circuits. Oh, in all-time production, we've finally hit another milestone with iron getting to 3.6 billion. 2.3 billion with copper, I guess, is another little milestone. I'm really waiting for this one, but it won't take long for that one once we start the next level research. But yes, what we are going to do now is we will go and try and remove that iron mine. Where is close? It's this one here. Probably the steel one. Steel 1, yes. Hashtag steel 1. So I guess it's been pretty uneventful, the blue science overall, aside from the conversion of that stack. Once I get to the next science, I will be able to convert a few more stacks, so there will be a little bit more to do. I might look at a little bit more ore patch maintenance, just to make them a bit more efficient in terms of repositioning the platforms. But other than that, it's pretty much going to be a straight run to the end of Faster Than Light. What do I actually call the last thing? Faster Than Light propulsion systems. It too will, yeah, probably be a pretty straight run. What else should we look at? There's not much else to look at. This one's a little bit untidy. Okay. It's over here, isn't it? This still doesn't get rid of this fairly horrid rail crossing thing that we have here. I am waiting for the iron patch down below to exhaust. Whoops, I should have dumped most of this somewhere sensible, but I didn't, so we'll put it here for now. Yeah, we're still waiting for that other iron patch to exhaust, and it's still some 6 million or so away, so it's going to take its time. Don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. We probably can use that, so I think I've already redirected the trains. No, I haven't. Okay, this one. Instead of going to iron 8, go to iron 30, which is that stop that we maintained fairly recently until inventory full. Actually, it's coming out now, so go to iron 30 instead. Let's get rid of that one. And this one, let's start ripping it down. Something's auto-trashing. I'll have to look into that in a moment. Okay, they need another bot. Dump stuff into... right, let's get rid of auto-trashing. Those things, that thing. Others in due course. This is so fast when you are running at full speed. You forget. I found out my PC here is capable of supporting 2400 DDR3 RAM, and it's only running 1066 DDR RAM. So I might actually, because I don't really want to buy a new PC just at the moment, but I might actually go and see about investing in changing the RAM and see if that restores some, well, I mean, I don't need it at the moment, but see if that restores some UPS in general, because that would be good. Now, over here, I left a tiny little patch of iron there, never mind. What's in here? Okay, let's grab all of that. Yeah, don't do that, guys. Seriously. Yeah, I knew there would be a problem. Okay, so now we have to run back to a rubbish depot, and we should really do it at a slightly greater pace than this. There we go. Run back to a rubbish depot, which I've made fairly sparse now because I know that it uses circuit network, and I don't want all that circuit network usage. In fact, I could even consider ripping out all of the remaining special circuit stations. Right, let's get rid of all these excess things. Maybe I'll let it give me 20 of those. That'll do for now. Let's go and get some more. Rubbish train will be here momentarily to clean up all of that. It's fairly likely we'll not actually necessarily use all of the stuff that's getting returned to the Make Everything area at this point. That's just life, really. So that's our stuff there. Let's quickly grab this stuff. Oh, okay. Can I fit all my own stuff back in? Probably not. Let's get rid of this and then come back and pick up our stuff, assuming I can find it. And yes, it seems definitely quiet in the factory, but I can assure you that there is some work going on. We are still doing our 12k per minute red and green, 6k per minute blue. It just may not seem exactly like that. Right, let's go and get the rest of our stuff. Ooh. Too much rail. Okay guys, sorry about this. It would seem we need to make one more trip back here. It's really not that far for the benefit of not needing quite so many sets of these stops, so how about I auto trash more than say 400 of those. Get rid of some of those, some of those. I don't need all of those. I don't need all of those. I actually don't really need my stack inserters anymore either. Probably don't need all these blue inserters. Too many of those, too many of those. I don't need more than 50 of those. That'll probably do for the moment. Back we go. Okay, at this point I think we have probably done everything that we can do now, except maybe my promised watch science. It's not actually doing anything, or something's just pulled up into blue science, but other than that it's not really doing a hell of a lot. You got a couple of pathings from the top, but these things actually carry enough for 2 1/3 minutes or something. So it's not continuous. They're riding backwards and forwards, and obviously whatever I actually put on there is in fact enough to support it through the process that it's going through of, you know, burning science for this. The rate at which I'm able to fill these up is clearly, and then get them to distribute, is clearly sufficient because of the fact that we're not having glitches. So it's all good guys, it's all good. Anyway, what I'll do is I'll update you when this finally gets to the end so we can see the changeover. We'll see how much time we've got then as to what else we do, but we'll probably start looking at putting more of our condensed stacks in for a little bit more UPS efficiency as we head into that sort of end of the end game. But thanks for joining me for this bit, and I'll see you soon. And back. For our final little bit to see in the next tech. It's very hard to judge, of course, how long it is. I've just been watching this carry on. We have actually done a couple of other things around the factory to keep myself busy. Let's just have a quick look, as much as that is really fascinating. For one thing, over here, you may not notice it, but our whole facility where we were making, I guess, the simpler products has been completely removed, along with the copper 7 and so on there. Up here, this is gone. We still have this patch, but I have actually added miners in the middle here and moved the robo ports out so that this area can get tapped aggressively, leaving only little boxes here once we get to that point. But obviously there's quite a lot of iron still to go. The overall patch is still 6.3 million. I've done the same with the coal, although not quite as aggressively. I probably should make it as aggressively. But we had this bit as well as what's in the middle, so that will do for now. Coal isn't tapped as hard. This remains under control. I haven't moved on any of these trains, so well, here comes a iron train right now. So you will see how tight the action is at this point. There's a few going slightly out of this sort of area, but not a lot. Which is very good. In terms of performance, over a minute, we've finally got the blue beakers up to, well, flasks, whatever they are, up to 6k a minute actual production, but it's taken most of this time. So unfortunately, probably with the next one as well, it'll actually take quite a while before we actually see the full production performance from it. But certainly, I mean, over 10 hours, or 5.8k per minute now is not too bad. But most importantly, the actual stats here are fully the full numbers that we want for 10k, for 10 hours. We get 50 hours, it won't be, of course, because this doesn't take 50 hours. Just about is for red. If it's very close but not quite, it will show below, and there's a slight delay as I swap over sciences, so there's that, plus 50 hours would take you so far back, would be down to 6k per minute for a while of it, so that's not a very good measure. Under all time, we have 2.3k billion copper plate now. Still tantalizingly close to that 2 billion green circuit achievement only in my mind. 404 million red circuits, 69 million processing units. So, I mean, processing units could be a pretty close thing to get to the 100 million. That would be an achievement in itself. Still possible. Let's see what else. I'm over here because I've been doing that update. I think I'm going to, once we actually get some proper production happening over here, I'm probably going to want to try and crunch this smelter up. So I guess I should probably head to iron smelting 3. Where am I? Am I actually on board? Yes. Very hard to see when you're zoomed out that far, but alright, let's go to iron smelting 3 then. Have I done anything else? Well, I blew myself up with a nuke when I was clearing out that area. I almost recorded the aftermath of that for you guys, but it's not really that exciting once it's happened. It's funny when it does happen, but not so exciting afterwards. So I thought, no, I wouldn't bother, but I'll tell you about it instead. So, I mean, I was just a bit tired, and I knocked the key, and I must have hit the tab button, put it on nukes, and next thing I know, boom. It saved me trying to recycle a bunch of junk, but never mind. And it also blew up this train, and so I had to replace it. So it doesn't have a normal loadout on it now, but it doesn't really need to. In fact, we actually get a net, like when we're crunching these builds up, the total width of the beacons is shrunk, so we're getting beacons and speed modules back as surplus. So there's that, which is kind of interesting. Come on, faster than light fairy. See, we don't have all day for you to pop for us. How's this going? Slightly different than before, I think. Has refueling you been there quite a while? I'm not sure. Not even sure where refueling you is. Here we are, iron smelting 3, ready to go. Just need this guy to pop. I might end up taking a copy of just one segment of this rather than having to apply the whole thing. Where in fact is the whole thing? That is definitely not it. That's it there. Let's bring it down here. Got reshuffled after I nuked everything, I think. Still waiting on just this tiny little amount left. Come on, machine. How are we doing here? There's a bit of room in game update, but I don't think we'll maintain 60-60 even with the condensing. Trains, of course, is behaving quite nicely at the moment. My mod is basically, I guess it's under 0.2 most of the time. 0.1 was really where I wanted it to be. I don't know if there's that much more I can do to try and push it down though. We just have too many trains on this map. Speaking of trains, how many do we have? Time 536 trains still. And yes, time is the other one, which is the answer here. It's probably a few minutes more than that now. Not quite 26 days yet, but soon. Very soon, 26 well-spent days playing Factorio. And testing stuff over and over again. And building a new mod that some people seem to be quite interested in this one. How many satellites have we launched? 25,445. So that's a number that's going to start climbing very soon. And the last science is going to require all of the science items, so it is going to start mounting up very, very quickly. Alright, machine, I don't see a lot of space here. You've got to just about be there. How about you do it right now for me at the end of the sentence? That would have been really good, machine. Oh well, it looks like we're just going to have to ignore it for a moment and hope that it sorts itself out very shortly. Yes, so what I think I started alluding to slightly earlier in the earlier segment was that I was looking at you know, the performance monitor that you have for your CPUs and so on, when I managed to have some UPS stress, shall we say, slightly below the maximum 6060 like we've got at the moment, UPS. And then I was looking at the cores to see if any of them were showing, okay, so this one's obviously Factorio because we're right at 100%. None of them were at 100%. 60%. There was nothing more than 60%. And I really don't know why that would be. I'm nowhere near the total limit of my RAM. I have an SSD, although Factorio, strictly speaking, isn't actually on it, but I don't see why it would be. I don't see it accessing the hard drive except for saves, and I don't really care how long the autosave takes, so I'm not really sure how much, if I put Factorio on the SSD, it would actually help me. So the only thing left is the speed of my RAM, really, and I've found out that it's 1066, which is not fast RAM by any stretch of the imagination. So my motherboard, I've found out, can support overclock 2400 DDR3 because it's 4 years old. I might look into trying to get some and see if that lets my CPU run at closer to its max. Because that would be nice. That would be nice to have not 60% but 100%. Maybe we wouldn't have needed a certain bot capacity mod to help us out through the SpaceX research if we had had slightly more grunt. But anyway, enough of that. So the other thing I can talk about is what's next, because obviously, especially since I'm running most of this research on off camera, I mean, there is going to be obviously the blow up the science facility with nukes, because that will be fun. We can celebrate Anarchy Day, or whatever one would like to call such an event, when the whole education facility, our research is shredded. I'll probably take a save first though, if I want to use this map for testing stuff perhaps, and I'll definitely blueprint it so that I can at least have a reference. I mean, I like to rebuild things every time I do them because I can always do them better, but it'd be nice to have a reference point to the sciences as they're built, because I know there was a lot of little tuning that you can easily miss if you just try and recreate something from memory rather than from something like a blueprint, like the extra inserters that we need for various parts of it, and the actual count of the cable we needed for yellow science, and so on and so forth. So yeah, blowing it up is on the cards. Building up a full additional processing unit stack is on the cards, and I think that is going to require us to support the modules at any rate, is going to require us to increase red science as well. So that could be quite interesting how we go about that, because I'm thinking I'm not just going to copy the existing stack structure, but I'm going to do something different. And that will round out our playthrough, finishing that up and obviously launching the final components. And then new playthroughs. I am actually, you might think I'd be worn out after this, but I'm far from it. I'm actually, I have a concept in mind, and it may be something of a surprise. And I'll talk about that more in a bit, and hopefully our science will finally pop now. Come on, science, pop. Alright, let's go and have a look at that stack in motion, because that, at least, I don't know about you, but I find it absolutely, well, you know, it's good. It's interesting. Just seeing all of these trains, these massive trains, pulling in and out, in sort of constant motion. How they feed into this 12 stacker thing that I designed a long time ago. Oh, the other thing I did was, I think, oh, this actually does have wires still here. These wires, but they don't lead to anything. I took the combinators out, so That's helped reduce the circuit overhead. This thing works without this whole wired up thing that I originally did. If you just get your it's not actually that hard. A lot of people have issues with these sorts of things. It's not actually that hard. Let me just show you what you need at the end to make it work. There is nothing along here, okay? You have one rail chain signal at the common entrance to all of them, and you have a rail signal blocking off these ones. Now that one went into the same one this one did, but it can actually accommodate two, because I've got this deliberately spaced in such a way that you can accommodate two here. But the basic idea of an entry into a stacker can be achieved totally with just that mechanism there. It works 100%. You do not get trains coming in part way and blocking. They just don't. They won't go past this, and then it works. Key is, don't put any additional rail signals or rail chain signals along here in particular, or you'll ruin it. So there you go. I know that is something that people struggle with a bit, so that's why I laboured the point a little bit. Also, I needed to fill in time because this still hasn't popped. Come on, dude, pop! I don't have any other story right now. But yes, this is still entertaining to see the trains. I mean, I've been able to spend a bit of time doing this, but most of the time we're moving backwards and forwards doing builds, so it's harder to do. But it's always a little bit fascinating seeing something like this and realizing that this is only like one of, well, effectively 4 of these stacks. I've only actually got 3 doing iron, 2 doing copper, but there's sort of a, there we go, faster than light theory C. Let's get into the next one, the final one. 8,120,000 research will unlock the final research. Let's go. Let's have a look at our production numbers start to pick up on this. There should be no reason it can't be doing 12,000 of red and green and 6,000 of all the others a minute, kind of immediately. It's going to jump around a lot unless we put it on to 1 minute. It'll probably take a moment to get to 1 minute. Why is there stress with these ones? They seem to be taking a little bit longer to get the consumption leveling up. Maybe there's leveling. Sounds like an RPG. Maybe they need to fill up some of the some of the these guys, some of the labs, and certainly the labs is another thing I could easily have squished up, since they only have 1 inserter. They could easily have been squished up somewhat. Why'd we get 2 of those guys in there? Oh, right, yes. I was getting confused by seeing those. We're not going to be ordering any military science. In fact, I'm pretty sure I have killed off the military science from ordering. There's no publishers here, so yes, military science won't be any more. How many do we have? Actually 57,000 stored there, right, okay. That wouldn't last long. Let's just see these things into producing 6k a minute of all of them and 12k of these 2. There's our space, our yellow, our blue and purple. It looks like it's happened. Guys, I am going to proceed to use the boost that will happen as the other sciences burn through enough to start ticking up. These numbers will shoot up through the roof, really, now that everything's on board. They've got a long way to go, obviously, from right now. There's a bit of a buffer because I let them fully buffer up. But once we're through that buffer, yeah, these will ramp up and I'll be able to finish off this stack, probably this stack, although steel, it's less important. I would also like to do that stack. And see what sort of numbers we get. Anyway, thanks for joining me, guys. I look forward to seeing you in the next exciting things ahead. Bye-bye for now.